This is Ankita,
And this is Nalini.
and you are tuned in to Prickly Pears, the podcast where we celebrate uninhibited brown women and their prickly points of view. This is the season 2 wrap, the episode where we talk about everything we've learned through the journey of recording season 2, our favorite bits, and maybe a slight sneak peek into what's next. Season 2, Nalini, was your baby. It was something that you convinced me that we should absolutely do. Now that we've finished recording the season, is it everything that you hoped it would be?
I think it was and more. Like it was what I hoped it would be. And every time someone said, yes, I agree with Nalini, I'm Team Nalini, I believe in purpose, that's where my ticker would go hit that, upper limit and that bell in my mind. But definitely I learned so much in this season. Like I thought I've read so many books, I've like done a bit of research on all of these different religions. Like in the beginning, we talked about how different religious beliefs talk about purpose. And I think we got some brilliant guests that really had that level of mental clarity, intellectual, and the articulation of their purpose, like they had it in their minds, so clear. Many of them, some of them agreed with you, Ankita, which we can talk about, like where it doesn't have to be a single purpose or a solo purpose to live life. But I think like we had so many learnings, which we will get into this season. What about you? What do you think?
Before I say anything, I'm a little distracted by your outfit of the day. I know it's the weekend and it's close to noon, but did you just roll out of bed? I have never seen you in casuals while we're recording, so am I missing something?
It's because it's a Sunday, but also it's a very put together look with my t-shirt coat that is meant to be on point for our recording. I don't know if you can read it, but it says, by changing nothing, nothing changes. And I let that sink in if it was deep enough for many people. Because I think the whole journey of purpose and the journey of self actualization, I think it is so important for us to keep doing the work to make the changes needed internally within ourselves to make a difference to our own life and to others or to everything. Like, so basically change is something like that you need to have a prickly point of view on. But enough about my outfit, Ankita. Maybe tell me a bit about your favorite part of the season or your favorite episode.
I'm going to share something that our listeners may not know. This season was, of course, Nalini's brainchild, and at the start of the season, I was not very convinced that it was the right theme for the season, which is where my whole stance on, Team Ankita, we don't think. We need a long drawn conversation on purpose came from. And every 2 or 3 episodes, I'd go to Nalini and be like, okay, can we wrap up now? Have we done enough? And I'm so glad you pushed me to have all of these conversations because I have learned a lot, not only about purpose, but about, how people in the blue zone live, solo business, and a whole variety of things. But I think the single moment where, I would say I had a aha realization. So here's another thing that our listeners may not know. Nalini throws these absolutely amazing house parties. And on one such evening, the sun was setting, we were all very full from a large, delicious meal. The group of around, I think we were over a dozen people, we launched on a 2 hour long conversation on purpose. Part of me was very, very happy that we were talking about the podcast for as long as we did. But the other part of me was just amazed by how the word purpose had creeped into everyone's everyday vocabulary and the number of disparate views that exist on the topic. And I think wherever there is controversy, wherever there are prickly points of views, I think it's the right thing to create a season around it. So I'm really glad we did the season. And that is the singular moment I think that stands out for me.
If I had to say my favorite bits, I know you didn't ask me the question, but like if I had to say my favorite bits, it's also around all the conversations that we started within episodes and outside it. I might have mentioned to you, like, in my new job, like when I go at events, and sometimes like I meet total strangers that would have probably just seen my LinkedIn profile or what's out there, and we strike up a conversation. And at one point, there were two British men, really lovely people, who came up to me. I'm meeting them for the first time, and they're like partners of the company that I work in. And they come to me, and the first thing they say to me is that, I saw that you're recording a podcast about purpose. Like, maybe they didn't even know the full, like, entire pod is about, but the fact that, like, they saw purpose and suddenly something lit up in their minds that they had so much to share about. They were obviously not brown women, our target audience, but it struck so many chords with them, and they started talking deeply for the next 20 minutes. And like, this is just one of the many examples that all these side conversations that I've had throughout this season, it has also sent me on a journey of reading more about this, which I will share hopefully. But I want to give you a stat with all the guests that we asked, have they found their purpose, or like, what do they think of purpose? 66% of them said that they believe in purpose and they have found it. There were like basically one person that was on the fence, and then a couple that said no, that they don't think that this is the exact, like, this is not something that they are after in life. Like, it's an evolving thing and it changes. But definitely one thing that I changed my mind on from shooting our initial episode to after interviewing all these guests, parallel purposeful reading, is that I was a staunch believer that a person comes to this world with just one thing that they are meant to do, like that one main thing. Like, there can be things around how they live their lives and etc., but there's that one thing, like, that you need to fulfill that purpose, and after that you're free to do whatever else, right? You're here for a reason, and there's that one reason. After this, after talking to so many people, I've definitely changed my mind on purpose being a more evolving thing. And at one point, I think what Krati said on our episodes about how she thinks that at one point in time you have one purpose, but then the next day or the few months later it's a different thing that you're going after, and that adds value and meaning and purpose to your life at that point. So that's your purpose at that point. Like, the more the merrier, right? Like, I thought there has to be one purpose. Now I think that there could be many, which gives me a more positive, future looking outlook towards my own life.
I'll give you another stat now that you're sharing stats. But 100% of our guests, if you were to analyze their purpose in some form or the other, it can be summarized in two words: helping others. Everyone's purpose, it manifested in different ways. So there are different ways eventually, but I think if that's the purpose of every single person living on earth, isn't that wonderful? But I don't know if that is. But
I'm into that because I had like the quotes that I kept noting through the season. Brené Brown, which a lot of women like us follow today, and even Mother Teresa, like, these two women have forever, their stance on something like a purpose is that it is all about helping people. It's about being of service. Purpose essentially in their mind. And even Swami Vivekanand, in all his Vedanta philosophy, he says your purpose is to be of service to others. So I think a lot of these thinkers say what you've also definitely analyzed out of our, and you have statistics, which is even better. But something that Brené Brown says is connection is why we're all here. We are hardwired to connect with others. It's what gives life purpose and meaning. Basically, the way and the way to connect with others is either to be of help to them or to just have empathy with each other. I think that's something that a lot of people agree on. So I totally agree, and I used to think that that's just my purpose in life. So before that, I think in our first conversation, I said that to help others, like, everything I do is to help others, and I think that's my purpose. But clearly, that's an overarching theme, and you can definitely get more nuanced in what way or shape can you help the world or people around you. But and I like that stat.
I don't know if we collected guests in a way that they would talk about purpose in a way that of having found something, because they're all achieved something in life via different means. So I think it's not a conversation that's ending here today. It'll go on, and we might just still do our thing of going out in the street with a microphone and saying, "Do you have a purpose? Do you have a purpose?" And quickly sample 100 people. Two things. First, I know we started the season trying to test out three hypotheses, or trying to find the answer to three questions. The first question was, do we need to have a purpose, to a well-defined purpose, to live a happy, fulfilled life? I think you and I've talked about it for the last, I don't know, 10 odd minutes. But
And 10 episodes.
so 10 minutes, 10 episodes. So before we get into question 2 and 3, let's just take a minute to talk about Ikigai, the book. Like, I was surprised you didn't share a statistic of how many of our guests actually quoted the book. And
Definitely more than 50%, like I can say. Yeah.
I know I was surprised by how universal the book is. So I bought the book, I want to say 7, 8 years ago, when it was launched, and I got it. I read it. I thought it was a pretty book. It has big font. It has a lot of pictures. It's a nice coffee table book. It's really pretty. So I went and then got Huga, which is also a very similar looking book. And I was like, these two are really good coffee table books. When I have my own home and I'm dressing up the living room, these can be up there. And you can't imagine my shock when people started quoting it in an episode on purpose.
To the extent that, I mean, Ananya actually went to Japan to see the Blue Zone and people that the book Ikigai talks about. And I mean, it's amazing that a book is having this kind of an impact. I think that goes on to show how same things can resonate differently with different people. And to me, Ankita, like, not to sound arrogant, but this is my prickly point of view and it's my podcast, so I can say it, that should not be a book where your journey on purpose ends or like concludes. Like it's where you should begin. I think it's the alphabet, like the ABC of finding meaning in your life. Like Ikigai, I would urge our listeners, like, okay, if they haven't read it, yeah, that's a good place to start. But beyond Ikigai, like there's just so much good work and good stuff out there. Like whether you want to go into the Bhagavad Gita, like there's so much in there that will make you digest the message like even more deeply for a long sustainable time. Or but to each their own, like whatever resonates with people, which reminds me that I've been getting feedback from friends like every now and then on what resonated most with people. And I think so many people have given me so many different episodes. And, if our guests are listening, like I just want to call out a few of them. That Ananya's episode on the sabbatical, I think like that was definitely with people that are in the corporate that are listening to us. Actually, they want, some of them I want to talk to Ananya, and we're going to share her email ID because she's been very open. Then there were people who reached out to me for my sister's journey on from going from a corporate lawyer to armed forces personnel. There's definitely like a younger audience like that probably still has that option in life to do that. Hani Pamnani on being an eternal optimist. So many people that have given up on relationships in the past and like thought negatively about them. I think it resonated so much with women who've lost a lot, are trying to look forward into their lives and gaining a lot more. But I'll stop here, Ankita. Like, what have you been hearing? A lot of feedback that I received were actually from men. I mean, like some of our last Instagram followers have also all been men. I think the last few. Which makes it even better for our season 3, but we'll get to that in a bit. So this whole finding on everyone's purpose is helping others is not my own discovery. It was collaborated by some of the people who shared feedback. And then obviously because of recency bias, Naomi's episode has received a lot of feedback. And then obviously someone purchased from Boond as a result of that episode. I myself have been thinking about retreats a little more. Because of Neha's. Didn't get to Greece, may not get to the next one, but in 2025, we might just make it to one. So, statistics wise, our first episode, Aisha, from going to an employee to a founder in her early 20s, someone that early on the first day of her first job, realized that this is not for her. Being an employee is just not for her. Or like my sister's episode, Sonali on armed forces, she was doing this like this whole corporate lawyer rigor for a bit, earning a lot of money, but somehow their bodies and their mind, like they were lucky people to be in tune tune with their bodies. And the book that I read on purpose on North Star also said the exact same thing. If you're in tune with all your senses, it will tell you what's the right direction and the right path for you. Statistics wise, these two episodes have done really well, both on YouTube and Spotify and Apple. Well, one of the learnings which I will randomly spew out is that if you're in tune with your mind and body, and the sabbaticals and retreats and everything helps with that, being in tune with your inner self to know what you really, really want. One framework that I tried to bring up, I know we'll talk about the other one, which we started our season on, but really key thing that stood out from all these stories is that if you wanted to find your purpose or your North Star or what you're truly meant to do, or just attain happiness, like more happiness than what you have today, level one is self reflection. All of our guests were so deeply self aware on so many different levels, and through their journeys we saw like some people did it very early on in life. For some it took a near death experience or a life threatening experience to suddenly bring yourself to that shocking place that, yeah, no, I really need to go towards what makes me happier than what I'm doing today. Or for some it was just deep inner reflection that made you reach there. But self reflection and exploration, like these two things, by the way, this came out in my chat with the Gemini app this morning, the Google AI app, because I was trying to have a conversation before you and I got into a conversation. What does exploration mean? And all our guests, if you think about it, like they tried different careers or they tried different hobbies, they tried different like things. And what you and I also do in life, right? Like we try to push ourselves out of our comfort zones a little bit to just try a new thing and see how you feel about it. And like that's a very good exercise in coming in tune with yourself. Like, okay, I might have never painted in life, so how do I know that painting is not for me? But if I do it and then see like how I felt about painting, it just makes like, or I hated it, I know that it's not for me and I move on. So exploration of different things, giving yourself a chance and the time to do these different things, to know what you like, is definitely like step number 2, from self reflection to exploration. But I will stop there, and I will tell you the rest of the framework in the end if if you're curious.
What? Tell me now. Your framework can't just have two steps. And I tell me now. I don't want to wait.
I mean, the consulting world tells us that everything has to be in threes. So I'll tell you the third step, self reflection, exploration. And the third is a combination of contribution and mindfulness, which goes back to service and serving mindset and helping others. Find a way to contribute to things bigger than yourself. And this is tying back to what everyone said on the pod. Whether you're a coach helping others, whether you're a lawyer in the armed forces getting justice for people, or whether you're building a product or a tool that helps others, whether you're starting a podcast that in the future might help some young women. So like there are these things, like find a way to contribute. It doesn't have to be big or small. It just has to be, being mindful about what the self reflection and exploration taught you. And then using those two things, find a way to meaningfully contribute to 2 people, 5 people, 10 people, like it doesn't matter, but to meaningfully contribute to something bigger than yourself. So that's one framework which is similar, I would say, to the golden circle. But since it didn't, do you have something to say about it? Because I was really passionate about it in the beginning, but then we didn't really.
Yes, so our third hypothesis was if the golden circle is a thing, and I tried bringing it up in some conversations, but it really didn't fly. I think a lot of people agreed with the essence of what it was, but it, similar to the Maslow hierarchies of needs, it felt basic. They needed a better framework, and I think we have now one to go by.
I mean, yeah, we have two options now. So if someone's listening for the first time, just going to quickly go back to what the golden circle was. Starting with why, definitely, like Simon Sinek's name is, it reminds you of why, like why you're doing certain things. When you have that why, hopefully it leads you to a thing that you want to be, or a thing that you want to contribute to, or something that really would lead you to somewhere, like which is a happier place. So you start with why. How, the second is how, like how do you get to where you want with the why that you know. and the third one being what. Like, what would be that core ideal life? What would your ideal life look like? What should you do to get to your ideal life? So this is the golden circle: why, how, what. Or the second one was self reflection, exploration, and contribution. So SEC.
That stands for something else, Nalini, and I don't think we want them to give us a call.
SEC, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're not in the US.
We've been talking about purpose for a while, I think the last 20-25 minutes. So it's time to put a pin on the conversation. But before we do, I have started inching towards Team Nalini. And I think that's the power of all our conversations. So, listeners, prickly pears, I am really curious on which team you started out. And if you were on Team Ankita, are you moving to Team Nalini like I am, or am I letting you down? So comment, let us know, share it on Instagram or wherever you follow us. With that, Nalini, do you want to give us a sneak peek into what's next?
I wasn't planning on it, but I think we've been itching to get started with the next season, purely because I think like it's so close to our hearts and like a lot of people's hearts. It's the matter of hearts.
We've done like two very serious, comparatively serious seasons, right? And I am really looking forward to this because I know it's going to be one with endless laughs, a little bit of controversy.
Without controversy, it's not prickly pears, right?
Okay, a lot of laughs and a lot of controversy. On that note,
And no, what before we get out, and we will be doing some offline activity this season. This we can promise our viewers and listeners that we will be shooting in the same room the first episode of our next season, and we won't be taking as long a break as we did for the last between the last seasons. So this time expect us sometime soon in your Spotify, YouTube, Instagram feeds very, very soon with our season 3. And with that, Ankita,
we are out.